Welcome to Almost Agreeable.
Almost Agreeable.
With your hosts, Chris Nellison and Ed Harris. Hang around and listen to opinions on sports, movies, music, and whatever else pops in our head.
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Almost Agreeable podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, and with me, as always, is...
It's me, Ed.
It's him, it's Ed. And coming off some very exciting first-round games in the playoffs, the NBA playoffs, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Just a lot going on, not so much in the Eastern Conference, which is typical.
Naturally. Usually, LeBron has just run that conference for the last decade.
Yeah. He's
and now he leaves it, so it's kind of up for grabs
for the Bucks.
For the Bucks, but as we saw, 3 out of the 4 teams in the East, 3 out of the 4 series it was a sweep. Clean
Sweeps. 3 out of 4 series in that Eastern Conference are just swept. So this isn't something that's surprising to me. I feel like you said, LeBron has been running that conference, right? And now that he's gone, yes, it is quote-unquote up for grabs. But at the same time, the teams if you look in the last 20 years, you look at the 1 through 8 seeds in the Western Conference and put them up against the 1 through 8 seeds in the Eastern Conference, the last 4 of that Eastern Conference have barely winning records.
Yeah.
Okay?
Barely. Sometimes losing.
Yeah, in 2010, the Lakers went 57-25. And they were the first seed. The Thunder were the 8th seed, and they were 50-33. They're only 7 games out of the first seed. 7 games, that's it. And that's how the Western Conference has always been.
It's tight. And are you surprised with some of these sweeps in the East? Would you think that it would be more competitive since it is now quote unquote wide open?
I thought honestly, I am surprised. I thought there was only going to be one sweep in the Eastern Conference. I thought it was going to be the Milwaukee-Orlando series, right?
The one that's not.
And then Orlando pulls up Portland and wins game 1. Okay, but that series looks like it's on its way in Milwaukee's favor. What surprised me the most was the Heat sweeping the Pacers.
That was unexpected. That was unexpected. Just because I've liked the Pacers for a couple years now. They've looked really good. Yeah. And the Heat, Jimmy Butler is going out and doing it, but I was just wildly surprised with this sweep. That is really the one that I was not even expecting.
No, if there was any series in the Eastern Conference that I was thinking was going to be maybe the most competitive one, it was going to be that one. I'm not surprised Toronto swept the Raptors, or the Raptors swept the Nets. I'm not surprised that... What was the other sweep in there? Oh, the Celtics swept the 76ers. Yeah. I guess I am surprised. I thought I was going to take the Celtics in that series, but not in 4 games.
Yeah, I was like, the sweep is surprising, but the outcome isn't.
Yeah. Yes. So back to the Pacers, though, it's that is a good team. They're well coached. Nate McMillan in there, without one of their best players, right? They're missing Sabonis.
Yeah.
So that's a huge part of that, and the bubble itself is a different aspect. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and he was saying how much he loved the bubble. He wishes we could do the bubble for playoffs every year. And I was like, I like that, but as a fan of a team that is the first seed, I want we played for the first seed. I want the home court advantage throughout the entire playoffs. I want that. Portland could have used the being at home in their home stadium in Portland the last 2 games.
It definitely changes it, having that home field. You're in your comfort zone. You're going back to where you're used to playing. All your fans are there. You're going to have that confidence. It's going to be a completely different game.
Right. And then traveling on the plane is part of that struggle, part of that, you're going to be tired, you're going to be fatigued, you have to travel, you try to sleep on a plane. It all plays into that. And so you think about how that's not happening this year. And for Portland, even more so, I feel because that arena is one of the loudest in the NBA, right? It's up there in the likes of Oklahoma City, Indiana. They have great fans. They have loud fans. So I guess, do you want to talk about us? I mean, we're talking about the Eastern Conference pretty much. There's not a whole lot to talk about. 3 sweeps. I guess no one was surprised about the Nets.
I mean, the Raptors really just came out and put a bow on it. Scored 150 just out of nowhere. I mean, who's on that team? Like, who are the scorers on that team?
Well, it's wild.
That's not what you think about when you think about the Raptors.
No, you think about how Kawhi left.
Well, you think about how Kawhi left, but you think about the defense. You think about, like, you don't think this team is just has all this scoring potential.
Well, do you think... I guess they're playing such an inferior opponent, right? No Kyrie, no KD, no DeAndre Jordan. So do you think that this, whatever they're doing, whatever they have right now, do you think they can carry that on into the semifinal or even deeper into the playoffs?
Who are they going up against now?
Well, it looks like if Milwaukee wins their series, they're going to play the Heat.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would leave them to play the Celtics.
Yeah. I honestly that series going to a game 7 with the Celtics taking it.
Okay. I'm actually I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. I'm pretty high on the Celtics.
Some Lakers fan.
I really like what they have going on in there with Kemba. The whole dynamic of that changed when Kemba came in because Kyrie's so toxic.
Yeah, he's just I don't know what his deal is. He could have been like he wanted to be the guy and then realized being the guy sucks.
Being the guy sucks.
And now he's like, yeah, I'm with KD when you had LeBron.
Yeah.
Like, we could do a whole thing about we talk 30 45 minutes about Kyrie.
I feel like if he hadn't gotten selfish for that that period in his life, LeBron would still be in Cleveland. They'd still be winning titles. LeBron took that team without Kyrie to the finals anyways.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, I think I've vocalized on this show before how I feel about Kyrie. So, I don't need to rehash that or anything. I don't think he's going to be successful with KD in how many years they fucking spend in New Jersey. I'm sorry, Brooklyn.
It's Brooklyn.
But
Whatever. It's still New Jersey.
It's New Jersey. Whatever, man. It's the Nets. Who cares?
Who cares?
Who fucking cares?
Well, this year, nobody.
Nobody. I'm not going to care next year either.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, I sit here in my Laker jersey right now, not worrying about what's going on the East Coast because, as we said, the Eastern Conference had 3 fucking sweeps. 3 sweeps. So, I guess we can shift gears, go into the Western Conference. A lot to talk about in the Western Conference.
Much more to talk about in the Western Conference.
We have 2 series that are tied.
Yeah?
We have 2 series that are 3-1, looking like they're going in one direction, right? What do you want to start with?
I guess the game that is actually still happening. But, no, I guess it is over now.
I just got the ESPN update.
It just ended.
The game's over.
Lakers win 135 to 115.
That score makes it look closer than it actually was.
Which is saying something because it's still a 20-point loss.
The Lakers had 80 points in the first half.
80 points in the first half. Like it I don't know. This if anything, this was the game that Portland needed.
They did. I mean, you heard Chuck, Charles out here making predictions and saying this. If anything he's ever said right, which hasn't been anything to this point, he did say tonight that the Portland Trailblazers need to win this game.
Yeah.
Need to win it.
And of course, I mean, that's something like, yeah, they want to win every game, but you're not going to come back as an 8 seed down 3-1.
No.
It's just not going to happen against LeBron, AD, KCP, like all of these guys who just work well together. And they have such a deep bench, too.
Well, and that's the thing, the crazy thing. So, like, you say that. You said the deep bench thing. And, like, actually, as a Laker fan, like, that bench is almost trash. It's almost trash. But they play well together. That's the difference, is they play well together. Because Caruso comes in, and he plays real well with AD. So, like, the problem with the Lakers, they may be deep in the sense that you have a lot of guys that can perform well, but they have to have one of the 2 guys on the floor with them. They have to have LeBron or AD on the floor with them to perform like that. We saw just right now in garbage time that LeBron and AD sat the whole quarter. Actually, AD was hurt with back spasms, but out that whole time, and you saw how kind of not okay that was. Like, they're just running around The only times they were scoring is because Dwight Howard was on there getting rebounds, putting them back in.
Well, I mean, like, what team doesn't want their leader out there? You know? Like, at that point, they're up by 20, 30 points. Whatever. Let the guys play. Like, it doesn't matter. But, like, what team are you just going to, okay, yeah, we're going to take two of our all-stars, our two guys out, and just expect the bench to just go off?
I mean, there's a lot of teams like that. I mean, I'm spoiled. I'm a Laker fan, so I come from the time when Lamar Odom was coming off the bench to lead the second unit. Okay, so that team, yes, you could take Kobe and Powell off the floor. The second you can get it done. All right, so I'm.
Oh, so championship teams, like teams that have already.
These
won the
guys think they are a championship.
Okay,
team.
I'm just saying these are championship teams, so that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of teams aren't going to be able to do that. So I don't know if this team. They're working though. Like you say, they're not working, but just.
So I just said that. I said they work well together, but they have to have one of the superstars on the floor. And, like, you're right, so you're going to want to have one in situations like we just saw when you're up by 30. Then you take them out, obviously, and you see what happens. But my thing is, like, inconsistency is the biggest problem. Here's the two biggest problems for the Lakers moving forward, okay? It is consistency, and it is fucking free throws. Okay, I swear to God. I played basketball in my younger years, okay, when I was a wee lad. And our coaches used to make us, as a team, have to hit 20 free throws in a row. We'd all take turns, like, you shoot a free throw, you shoot a free throw. We go through the team rotation. We'd hit 20 in a row at the end of practice to leave.
To go home.
Go home.
This is your final task for the day. Come on, just the last thing. Come on, guys.
I wasn't getting paid millions of dollars. These guys miss free throws like it's just like, okay, like in game 3, the last game, it was close early on. It was very close.
Yeah.
Okay. If we had made the free throws we had been missing, we'd been up by 20. By 20. So, free throws and inconsistency. Because we saw how KCP, Kuzma, and Danny Green, they've been hitting shots. They don't always hit shots, and that's the fucking problem. It can't just be AD and LeBron all the time.
Well, okay, so this series, what do you think happens? Do you think the Blazers come back and take the next game?
No,
or is
no,
it just...
I don't. We don't know what's going to happen with Dame.
We don't know what's going to happen with Dame. I think regardless, the Lakers played one bad game this series, and that's the one they lost.
Yep.
That's really what it comes down to. Tonight, I mean, they were lights out, like 60%. They're like 50% from three. Like, they're lights out, and that's what gets you a win by 20.
Right. And that one game you're talking about, the one we lost, and I say we because I am a Laker.
True.
That game we lost, we played so badly, like so bad, and we were still in it at the end. Like, the Blazers had to play like a great game to beat us by 7. So, I know, I've been saying this for a while. I said it a couple weeks ago on the podcast. I said that I didn't want to see Portland in the first round, and I didn't. That didn't mean I thought we were going to lose. I just didn't want to see a long, drawn-out series. It looks like the Lakers took this shit seriously. They dropped game 1, and they said, oh, fuck. We need to... Can we not?
We can't afford to... You know, I mean, AD is out with back spasms. Who knows if that's just...
Tonight.
If it's just tonight, but, I mean, you placed a long series. If this becomes long and the next series becomes long, who knows what he's going to have left in the tank for the finals.
No, that's real talk, because there was a series in 2003, 2004, where the Lakers were on a championship run. It was the Kobe, Shaq, Gary Payton, Karl Malone season. Okay, and we played the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. We had a chance to eliminate them in Game 5 to put that series to bed. We'd lost. We had to go to Game 6. Karl Malone blows out his knee, doesn't play the rest of the playoffs. And then we lose in the finals to Detroit. So this plays exactly what you were just saying. It's like when you have chances to close out series, which is Game 5 is going to be a closeout game, you need to close those games out. Something Phil Jackson harped on in every team he ever coached.
Because who knows what could happen.
Exactly. You don't want that possibility. You don't want that out there. So if the Lakers play like they did the last 2 games, I would say not the last 2 games, but games like they did in games 2
and 4,
the rest of the playoffs, I actually am not worried. This is the Laker team I wanted to see. This is actually the team we saw tonight was a team that was closing before the suspension of play.
Yeah, this is the team that had that fire. They were really heating up.
Right.
And they were just owning. I mean, now looking at what Dallas is doing,
Okay, so Dallas.
I mean, it's the Lakers seem to just be kind of moving ahead in the standings for the West.
Right.
For me, anyways. I mean, like, because Dallas and the Clippers are. Do you think that goes 7 games?
So I think I asked you in a hot route.
I know
what you thought was more likely.
I know.
And what's crazy is that you didn't choose a terrible answer. I remember it specifically. There was a couple options I gave you, and the one you chose was that the Chris Paul Thunder would do better in the playoffs than they did with Russell.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, at first, OKC went down 2-0.
They did.
It looked like we looked like Skip Bayless out here. Okay,
yep.
we just random shit. But it turns out we'll get to that series in a little bit. Turns out that could still be a thing. But also, you skipped over the Dallas Mavericks taking the Clippers to 7 games.
Yes,
which I would have taken that one. I knew this series was going to be that way. Luka is just
cerebral.
Who knew? Okay, I don't want to say who knew, because I know Dallas fans will kill me.
Yes.
Dallas fans will be like, hey, I knew. Yeah, you're cool, you
this
knew,
is
man.
Without Kristaps.
Exactly. Game 4 today, or yesterday, these guys were down, 21 points at one point.
Yeah.
And it's just Luka, no Kristaps. Dude has like a 40-plus point triple-double. And then he hits a step-back 3 to win the game. Now, I repeat myself. Who knew? And I'm talking about the outside world. Who knew? I knew the kid was good. I knew the kid was good when Kobe talked shit to him in his native language on the sideline.
Yes.
I was like, if Kobe's talking to Luka,
that means something.
It does.
That means something. You're not saying it just out of nowhere.
Right.
But I wasn't thinking it was going to be a sweep, but I also wasn't thinking it was going to be 7 games. I was thinking that the Clippers were going to be able to handle them. But who knows? I mean, if the Clippers win the next 2 games and the series is just 4-2, looking back on it, if you're just looking at the scores, you're like, oh, okay, well, they took it 4-2. Not realizing that this is, I mean, it's tied right now. It's competitive.
Yes.
It's rough.
And then Kristaps is a game time decision for Game 5.
Yeah.
So you bring Kristaps back in, maybe. I guess my biggest thing is the Clippers. I'm confused. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Before the start of the season, I'm going to ask you, and you answer this honestly. Before the start of the season, who's the second best player on that team?
It's Paul George.
It's Paul George.
Easily.
But you know who is the second best player on that team right now?
It's Lou Williams.
It's Lou Williams. It is not Paul George.
It's not.
This is starting to look like vindication for Russell Westbrook.
A little bit.
Vindication for the Pacers. Because where is PG? Where is he?
I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Like, I never thought he was a bad player. I never thought he was a fraud. I never thought he was like an all-star, but he's just disappeared.
In big moments.
Completely.
I mean, who can forget the 3 that Dame hit over him to send him packing last year?
Just ended it.
Yeah.
That's a dagger.
Oh, yeah, and then Paul George comes out like, yeah, I don't care who you are, that's a bad shot. Oh, is it, Paul George? Is it a bad shot?
Is it?
Oh, yeah, I probably wouldn't say anything.
Did it go in?
Did you lose the series?
Whoops.
What do you think his deal is? Is it a mentality thing?
I don't know.
Because he's been hopping around, right?
Yeah, I mean, where was he before?
Oklahoma City.
He was in Oklahoma City, and then where was he before that?
He was a Pacer.
So he just... Do you think people are recognizing that, like, he's just not as amazing as the contracts he's getting? Do you think this is like a Sam Bradford effect?
Ooh, okay, yeah. Okay, here's my thing. When he was on those Indiana teams, it was just him.
Yeah.
And they were still making pretty deep playoff runs. When you play with Russ, it's hard to say. It's hard to say when you're with someone like Russ, because now Russ is with James Harden, but he's not playing right now. But that is still a wash to me. I don't know what happened there. And I feel like 2 games into his first playoff series with another superstar, like an actual superstar, like Russell Westbrook is a superstar, but Kawhi is a different breed.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's too early, and I've been talking shit this whole time about PG, but I'm going to be real now. I think it's too early to be like, yeah, this dude's a piece of... He's a fraud. He's a fraud. I think it's too early for that. If they can't get out of the first round, and he keeps playing the way he's been playing, then yes, then that conversation can start. But if they get out of this round because maybe he turns it around, and they get out of this round, and then they have a great run, maybe the narrative changes a little bit. I think right now it's too early, 2 games into a playoff run, to say something too drastic.
Okay, and I agree with that, but I don't think that it would take them losing the series to call him a bum. I mean, they could take the series. They could still get to...
You mean Kawhi and Lou Williams can take the series?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So
and then PG's a bum.
And then PG's a bum. Like, he could still just be ass, but they could take the series. I mean, not with...
And they could do it with just...
Not with Luka playing lights out, though.
No, if Luka continues to have 40-plus point triple-doubles, I'm scared of the Mavericks.
I mean... They look good.
They do look good. And that's the thing about this bubble, is that, like, you get on these little runs in there. Like, Portland had one going, and it's kind of sad. I actually, as a Laker fan, am sad to see that we're putting this Dame train to sleep. We're putting it in the station. Okay? But can you think about, like, some of the teams that have been going through this bubble and just been on runs? Like, the Suns. They didn't make the playoffs, but they were undefeated in the bubble.
Yeah.
Okay? The Mavericks towards the end of the bubble play, just regular season into the playoffs, looked great. The Pacers, same thing, but then came in and got swept. So I guess it's kind of fickle.
I think that, like you said, the Blazers were hot. You don't want to see them like coming in because they've been hot. But I think they were hot for so long that they just cooled down. I mean, you're playing a lot of games. This isn't like, wild card teams in football who just come in like at the end of the season and you play one game a week and it only takes a couple games and you're just on a hot streak.
Right.
This is basketball. You're playing a lot more games, so they had their run, they had their hot streak. So now I think they're coming down from that in the worst possible time.
No, and it sucks because I think I was telling you this during the game. I said, if the regular season hadn't been suspended because of COVID, I don't think the Blazers make the playoffs.
Who did they have to beat out? Who did
they beat out? The Grizzlies.
They did,
the Grizzlies. But the Grizzlies were doing well at the suspension, too.
They were.
That whole thing, like, the only teams that were really secure into making the playoffs were, like, the top 4 seeds from each conference.
Yeah. Everything else was just, we'll see.
Yeah. Because, and then...
crunch time, man. Like, it really was.
Yeah. You had a small amount of time to just... And so, I guess I don't... As much as I'd love to stay and talk about the Lakers this whole time, I... try to be objective, so I guess we have to move on.
Okay, let's move on.
We were talking about Clippers and Mavericks. I don't think I'm done yet because I don't think I'm done with the Clippers yet because Lou Williams.
He's been talking a lot of shit.
Well, just imagine
he's been showing out.
Imagine someone coming off the bench for you that good.
He's been showing out.
I hate him. Actually, you know who I fucking hate on that roster? You already know. You know who I fucking hate on that roster?
Who do you hate more?
Pat Beverly.
Oh, yeah.
I hate him.
Right, yeah.
That's who I hate.
Yeah.
That dude fucking sucks. I'll never forget, I saw a highlight where they beat the Warriors last year, and Pat Beverly was, like, clapping in Steph's face and was like, "It's our time now." And, like, Steph looked at him and was like, "Dude, you're, like, 34.
Oh, shit.
With that, like, Steph look on his face
like,
when he said it, just like...
That's, like, not even like a scowl.
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
It's like that meme. It's
Yeah,
like,
what? Yeah, like that Nick Young meme.
Yes. Not quite,
Yeah.
dude.
So, okay, I guess we can move on from these assholes. I think it does go 7 games.
You think go 7?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what about the Rockets and the Thunder?
That's wild to me. Because coming in, the Thunder looked like a youthful team outside of Chris Paul.
Yeah.
With Chris Paul steering the ship.
Which is good, you know.
I
he
loved
has
it.
experience.
Yeah.
I would always root for him when he was on the Clippers. Like, I loved when he was on the Clippers.
Always loved Chris Paul. When he was a Pelican, they were the Hornets back then.
Yeah.
And a Clipper, even though... Because
they never did anything.
No. That team, they called them Lob City. It was like
City.
Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
Chris Paul.
They couldn't quite make it.
No. And that was their window, too, because the Lakers were like stuck in mediocrity.
Yes. That was the window where they were just not making the playoffs.
It's because the Warriors came to the forefront.
It was when the Lakers were not making the playoffs. So it was like, we got Lob City, and like Blake Griffin is number one. He's hilarious. I'm just gonna bring that up.
I've heard him on podcasts
He's
before.
just funny. Like,
that's just a great dude.
He does stand up. Like, the dude's hilarious, but he's also like pretty friggin' good.
Yeah, no.
And so that team was poised to at least make a finals run.
Yeah.
And they never did.
No. It was weird. You know what? It has probably nothing to do with their coach, who I hate. Doc Rivers.
But, I mean, do you think that if Russ was in, they would be up maybe 3-1 or have taken the series?
No. And that goes... I'm saying that because of the player that I think that James Harden is. Like, look at James Harden's stats in the games they played. He's playing great.
Yeah.
He prefers it. He prefers it to just be him.
Yeah.
Okay, you start throwing a guy in to share the ball with like that, I think maybe they're down 3-1.
You really think so?
Yeah.
Woo.
I don't think Russ is a great team dynamic player.
He's not. I think he's good in the... Honestly, he's in the shadow of James Harden right now.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah.
And I think he can thrive in that. If he wants to be the guy, he always does. But I think if he has somebody who is like James Harden, who is kind of like the same play style, just like pretty aggressive, it can kind of put him in check, and he's kind of his Robin to Harden's Batman. And so I think it could work. Like, their play styles could work.
Well, they used to when Harden was coming off the bench.
They did, yeah.
In Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
I guess my thing
It's almost
is...
like the roles are flipped.
Yeah. Well...
I that's what I'm thinking, like, if the roles were flipped and, like, Russ is maybe, like, coming off... Or, yeah, actually, yeah. If Russ is coming off the bench, I think that's the most optimal for the Rockets.
Yeah. But when do players do the most optimal thing for their teams?
Yeah.
So, I guess... No, I don't... I feel like this... At least the series will still be tied, even with Russ in there. And this also doesn't just... I'm not just talking about Russ's game, because I really do think Russ is amazing. Did you motherfucker average a triple-double, like...
Yeah, I mean, clearly he's a very athletic player,
yes.
but...
So, but James Harden also, like, his game suffers when there's another alpha on the floor. Because he needs to be the alpha. And he hasn't... He showed out this series. But... So the Thunder are a more complete team.
Yeah, I feel like with James Harden, it's less that he needs to be the alpha, and more that he just is. And I feel like with Russ, it's he needs to be the alpha.
Okay, I can agree with that.
I feel like that's the problem with Russ, is that he always tries to be the guy, and sometimes he's just cold.
Yeah.
And Harden hasn't been cold for like 4 years.
Yeah, no, Harden, this motherfucker can't miss. And you're right. I agree in the sense that, yes, Russ feels he needs it. And Harden, I think, besides the point that you made, that he just is the alpha, he plays better when he is the alpha.
Yeah.
Because he didn't play great basketball with Chris Paul either.
They played not well together.
Which is wild to me, because Chris Paul...
I thought that would work.
I thought, me too. That whole failed experiment in Houston, because they brought Melo in.
Yeah, it was weird stuff.
It was just like, bro, like, how the fuck can't you make this work? Like, there's things sometimes where, like, the stars align for teams you don't like or maybe even hate, that you're like, that can be fun. And you know what happens, like, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months into the season? This isn't fun. What the fuck, guys? You have this roster and you're, what the fuck is this? I mean, yes, lose because I don't like you, but also you could have been something more.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, that first season with the Heat when they lost the Mavericks.
Yeah,
it was like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
They were there.
Like,
you made the super team. Like, what? What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? It's going to be the same kind of train we're going to see in fucking Brooklyn next season. I promise you. KD and his fucking burner accounts and his bitchy little attitude, complaining about people hating on him. Oh, ba-bee.
This is all outside stuff. Okay?
Kyrie, who thinks it's the flat earth, this motherfucker.
All right, look, yes, they are crazy people. All athletes are insane people, naturally. To have this kind of drive, they're inherently crazy.
Okay.
Are
you trying to bring me back down? I'm going on a rant right now. I'm getting angry.
Have you seen a better scorer than KD?
I feel like right now James Harden is rivaling that.
Okay, like more of KD is more of a. I mean, yeah, you can see this all over. Have seen it all over. KD is more of a mismatch for anybody and everybody in the league. The dude's, 6'10"?
Moves like a gazelle.
Yeah, moves like a gazelle, can shoot, can drive,
yeah.
has handles. He just is a mismatch for anybody.
I agree. He is the hardest guy to match up with from a defensive standpoint in the league right now. And if I'm thinking back, like you said, do you think there's like anybody that's a better scorer than KD like all time? Give me a second with that because I want to bring in some names here.
Oh, okay. Like, yes, of course there's better scorers.
But I know there are, but I want to throw them in. I want to just like throw them in the bucket. Because KD's titles for me have asterisks.
Why?
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 He went to a 73-9 team.
Yeah.
To win his titles.
To win his titles, yeah.
Yeah, fuck him.
They don't have asterisks.
They have asterisks.
He's childish.
This isn't me.
But it's a ring.
This isn't me saying I think he's a lesser fucking. I just told you I think he's one of the best scorers of all time. He's a great player. He's a mismatch. No one can defend him. But his titles have asterisks. That's it. Throw it back at me if you want to keep going because I will. But you're not going to change my mind.
That's
skip.
He went to he is a snake. He's a snake for straight up leaving the team that, we talk about, the Warriors lost being up 3-1. So did the Thunder.
To
the Warriors.
And then he joined that team next year.
I know. So there's nothing. The dude is a snake, okay? But rings are rings. Rings are rings.
No, people will forget. All they'll do is look and be like, oh, yeah, KD has 2 rings.
Yeah.
But you're going to have 80-year-old crotchety, Chris run around with his fucking rocker and, on a cane, being like, join the 73-9 team, fucking snake ass. Sorry.
Nobody's saying he's not going to end up top 10 in anybody's list of anything.
He might.
I don't think so.
Talk to Charles Barkley, dude. He's got hot takes all day that are incorrect.
Yeah, he's not going to end up top 10 in anybody's list of anything.
Okay. Maybe scoring.
He is a fantastic scorer, but I don't think that he's gonna do it forever. He's not gonna be. I don't know if he how would he change his game?
I don't think you can. I think
the greats, they change their game. How would he change his game?
Well, one, I think maybe he becomes a more effective post-up player if he does change his game. But we don't even know how he's gonna come back from this Achilles injury.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about the future. We haven't seen him. When's the last time we saw him play?
In the finals against Toronto.
So, this is all futuristic stuff, so we'll see.
Right. And I guess, before we end it today, there's one series we haven't talked about. Right? Well, first, let's finish that one, right? 2-2 right now.
Yeah.
Oklahoma and Houston. I think Houston wins the series in 6 games.
Really?
Yep.
You think they put it together and
I think they just win the next 2 games, yeah. I mean, they barely lost today.
Yeah. I was thinking Houston in 7, though.
Well, Schroeder had 30 points today. He doesn't show out like that every game. He averages, in this series, around 20.
Yeah.
But he ain't having, Chris Paul numbers every game.
Yeah, this is abnormal.
So, I do see Houston, as much as I'd like Houston to lose, not even if I want Houston to lose. I want OKC to do well. I see the Houston winning in 6 games.
Good. Let's not let the Thunder win anything.
Good. Good. You're on that train. Of course you are.
Good. Remember the Sonics.
The team formerly known as the Seattle Supersonics. Okay, the last series that we haven't talked about in the Western Conference, Jazz and the Denver Nuggets. Okay, Jazz winning that series 3-1 behind Donovan Mitchell just performing like a monster.
The spider, dude.
I actually think that...
the Joker, dude.
I think that Jokic is probably one of the best centers in the league.
And I think he goes underlooked. But not really. I don't think he goes underlooked. Who else is on that Denver team? This is who we're always talking about. Jokic.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly surprised that They are down
in this
3-1?
series.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have. This is another series like the Heat Pacer one that I thought would be an interesting series. It would go maybe the distance.
Yeah.
At most, with the Jazz playing the way they're playing, I see it going at most 6 games.
Yeah, honestly, like, if they can come back and salvage something, but, I mean, they might just end it. What, they play Wednesday or tomorrow?
Yeah.
They play Tuesday.
Okay, they play tomorrow. And the way Donovan Mitchell's been playing, obviously amazing, but I don't think... But that's it. I mean, you have Rudy Gobert,
Yeah.
who's the defensive player of the year because he shut the whole season down.
Jesus.
Sorry. Had to throw it out there. Besides Donovan, like, who do you have, like, showing out super hardcore for, like, the second round of the playoffs?
I don't think they have a guy, like... He's going to be their guy, and he's got to continue to... If they want to make a deep playoff run, I mean, I like what they've been doing. They've been the last, 2 years. I like what they've been doing, but what do you think they need, like a solid number 2?
Yeah. Every team, you can't win with just a one guy and like an okay number 2.
Yeah.
Like, especially in today's NBA. It's not like the 2000s and 90s. It's not like that anymore. You have to have 2 superstars and then like a third who can be a superstar like when you need him to.
Honestly, I think I'm thinking of, this century. I'm trying to think of a team that won the finals that didn't have 2 all-stars.
Was it the 2011 Mavericks?
I was thinking, I mean...
With only Dirk?
Terry wasn't...
I don't think Terry was an all-star.
He might not have been an all-star.
It was just Dirk.
But what's crazy is that team felt like it had heavy hitters, That it felt like they had some all-stars on there.
I remember that season. It didn't feel like that until the playoffs.
Exactly.
And saying that, it didn't even feel like that until the Western Conference Finals. Even when they beat the Lakers, they swept them. Even when they swept the Lakers that season, I was like, we got swept by the fucking Mavs? What the hell is going on? And then I saw them play in the Western Conference Finals, and I was like, well, goddamn, okay. J. Kidd showing out. J. Terry showing out. Who the fuck is J.J. Barea? Why is he doing this? Who is that? Okay, it was a wild scene. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's a wild scene.
Had to do it to him.
Yeah. So, I mean, most teams, you're right. They need a number 1, a number 2. Like, a team that I'm thinking of that didn't really even feel like they had a number 2 was honestly last year's Raptors.
I was just thinking that, and if you didn't bring that up, I was going to. Yes, because like I feel like we went back too far. We went back too far. Like last year, it was just Kawhi, and if you a lot of role players. But the thing about that team was that every role player was consistent and knew their role. They played well together. It was weird too because it was Kawhi's only year in Toronto.
Yeah.
Wild to think about chemistry happening that fast. Although he did have that fucking 30 missed games for load management, little bitch.
Yeah, but you are completely correct. The only all-star on that team was Dirk.
Okay, that's what I thought. I wasn't sure because J. Terry might have, but apparently
that was the only person I could think of. Though.
Yeah.
Who else?
But
yeah, I think the Jazz close it out.
Okay,
tomorrow.
So let's just pick our winners from each series real quick, right? Jazz, we agree.
Yeah.
Lakers, we agree.
The Bucks, naturally.
Bucks.
They had an oopsie, like the Lakers had an oopsie.
Yeah. And then that leaves Houston and OKC and Dallas and Clippers.
I'm still going with the Clippers. That was my pick at the beginning. So I think Luka's just on a tear that, I mean, it literally is unsustainable. So I think... I mean, even if they do beat the Clippers in this series, I think it's just unattainable to keep performing how he is. At some point, there's a come down, and it may be after this series.
It could happen in the second round because what I think right now is if Paul George continues to play the way he's been playing, Dallas takes this series, and not even in 7 games.
You think right? Just take the next 2.
They have snatched momentum with that game winner because Clippers had a chance to put them down 3-1 without Kristaps That was their chance to put him in a hole. And they didn't. And now they have this confidence. And yes, maybe Luka can't sustain this, but he's still on this run. And until that run ends, he's showing out.
Yeah.
So hot take right now. If Kristaps comes back for Game 5, PG continues his slump where the fuck is bum-ass fucking whatever he's doing, Mavericks in 6.
Okay.
And then Houston, I said in 6.
Yeah, I'm still thinking Houston in 7, but I'm thinking the Clippers in 7.
Okay.
I think like the hot route you asked me was on it. Didn't expect it, but seeing him come out, it's on it.
Okay.
Well, speaking of hot routes.
Oh, is it that time already?
You know what time it is. So I got some hot routes for Mr. Christopher over here.
Oh, snap. I'm a mister.
So, did you see that the Nets were thinking of going and getting Pop?
Yeah, I did see that.
Do you think Philly should try to go get Pop because they just fired their coach?
Yes. I think that Pop would be a better fit in Philly than he would be in Brooklyn. I think that there are few coaches that garner the respect that Pop does, and maybe he could come into Brooklyn and try to corral the enigma that is Kyrie Irving and the little bitch that Kevin Durant is. But I think in this deep into Pop's career, he doesn't want that. You come into Philly with Embiid, who I still feel like you build your team around. Maybe Ben Simmons if he returns. But even if it's just Embiid, you can look at what Pop has done with that San Antonio team. That dude is one of the best coaches of all time.
Yeah.
I would prefer him, and I think he would do more successful in Philly.
Okay. I think it could be good. I think they need an experienced, firm hand.
Yeah.
I think that could turn it around and not get swept.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the Nets.
Oh, are we fucking? Is this a hot rod about the Nets? Because I'm gonna get angry.
Yeah, perfect. How far do the Nets go next year? Let's say we have a regular season. Let's say it's just
a normal regular
stuff.
Season.
How far do the Nets go next year?
At most, just because of talent alone, Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know if they get to the finals. Depending on what, Milwaukee does this season, how Giannis is feeling next season, if he's back in Milwaukee. I think the Eastern Conference Finals at best. And I feel like a lot of this is hinged on the fact that I hate Kevin Durant. But I don't know how that chemistry is going to be yet. We haven't seen it. I don't know how KD's going to come back from his injury. And this is real Chris talking. No, this isn't real Chris. This is objective Chris talking. Objective Chris is saying we don't know how KD's going to come back from his injury. We don't know how his chemistry is going to be with Kyrie. Kyrie's also injury prone.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the head coach? Right? If they don't get Pop, what are they going to do? So, Eastern Conference Finals. That's it.
A lot of question marks. On that team. It could work.
Too early to tell.
Yeah. And, it's a somber day. So just, I know you've been thinking about the mob all day. So just not even trying to bring it down, but just kind of trying to remember. What's your favorite Kobe performance? What's iconic to you? What stands out for you specifically as that's the number one memory that I have of him on the court?
So this performance I'm going to talk about, because there's so many that were amazing, the cliche ones, the buzzer beaters over the Suns, buzzer beater over the Heat against D-Wade, that was great. 81 points, obviously that. The time I'm going to talk about is actually in a loss in the finals.
Oh.
Against the Celtics.
The Celtics, yeah.
So, Game 5. 2010 NBA Finals. We ended up winning that series. We were playing pretty bad. The rest of the team was playing bad. And I'll never forget, Kobe scored 23 straight points. And it wasn't for lack of trying to get his teammates involved. A lot of the points were him, at the end of the shot clock, him having to throw up shit. And we lost the game, but I'll never forget his face. putting up these points, but still just grabbing his teammates, like, and not the angry Kobe at number 8, like, the death stare Kobe, like grabbing his teammates and be like, come on, we need to stop, let's fucking do this. And so that performance, yes, and in the middle of that performance, I'll never forget, the ball got thrown out to him at the end of the shot clock by Ron Artest. Like, it was like 3 seconds left on the shot clock, and he was out almost at the logo. We were in Boston. And he just popped a 3 from that deep. And this was like his like 20th, 21st, 22nd point in a row. And he nailed the 3. And Mike Breen, the call, was just like, Kobe Bryant again! and then like it like panned over, like it like zoomed in, like, and D Wade was in the audience. D Wade was in Boston watching the game, and he has a water to his mouth, and you can't obviously hear him, but he definitely mouths. He's just like, damn. And like takes a sip of his water. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget how
cold.
It sticks out to me because we lost the game. We came back and won the series. I'll never forget it because of he didn't lose faith in his teammates. He kept trying to still get him involved. He was playing his heart out, and that's vintage Kobe. Is like because we were down like 10 the whole game.
Yeah, and
he was just trying so hard, and that's the Kobe that I think perseveres and gives the attitude that people remember today. Like,
yeah, the
Mamba mentality. Just so, yeah, that's what it is for me. Yeah,
definitely, I can get behind that. Love that, man.
I miss him. Shit.
Yeah, it's his day. It's his day.
Yeah. Well, that was a pretty, I would say, a fun episode talking about the NBA playoffs. Obviously, as long as they're going on, we'll be talking about them, but we're not done with the NFL yet. We have a few divisions to talk about still. So when we return next week, we'll be talking about some NBA playoffs again, but also we'll, talk about some more NFL as we anticipate the season.
Yeah, got to get into the AFC teams now.
Yes. All right, well, that's all we got today. So I'm Chris Nellison.
I'm Ed Harris.
Thanks for stopping by. Thank you for listening to another episode of Almost Agreeable. You can catch all new episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Almost Agreeable.